What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the other day I heard some information that is just absolutely devastating, in my personal opinion, for the future of the Battlefield franchise. It's very sad because Battlefield 6, to me personally, is a very fun game. Of course, it needs work here and there, but this is the best foundation for a Battlefield game that we have had in ages. And of course, right when we go ahead and get this title, the worst news ever goes ahead and drops. But ladies and gentlemen, before we actually go ahead and hop into the main topic, I do want to say the open beta was pretty successful for Battlefield 6. I gotta be real, as you guys obviously already know. It should be closed down today. I'm devastated, I'll be real. I had so much fun. I genuinely did not want to see it go, but obviously it has to, and we gotta wait a couple more months until we can actually hop back into the experience. But so far as of this recording, I'm recording this at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the 17th. So, as you guys know, I do record my videos the day before. And we are at 235,000 users right now. The 24-hour peak was 337,000. And, of course, the all-time peak was 521,000. Barely even dipping below 200,000 concurrent players from the time the second beta opened to when it's going to go ahead and close. That is amazing. Again, I know people are going to say, oh, these numbers probably won't last. And of course, they're not going to. But, for the Battlefield franchise, this is something that is just outstanding. We haven't seen a Battlefield game get this much recognition or popularity in a very long time. And it's just great to see so many eyes on and people enjoying the experience. And of course, yes, like I stated, there are some negatives and things that have to be changed around. But it's just awesome to see all the hype revolved around this franchise at the moment. And I hope that DICE can run with this and actually launch the game in a nice spot. Because optimization-wise, the game runs so smooth. Yeah, the servers might be a bit gunked up. But, like I stated, we haven't had a foundation this solid in ages. So they better not screw this up. Battlefield's notorious for, making the launch version of the game run worse. So please, don't screw us. You already had hundreds of thousands of people, 500,000 players coming on through and playing this game at a time. The full launch shouldn't be a disaster. So hopefully things go smooth. But ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, let's hop into the actual topic of today's video, because although I am having a blast with Battlefield 6, that doesn't mean the franchise is safe whatsoever. As you can see right here from Battlefield Bulletin over on Twitter saying, General Manager of Battlefield, Byron Bede, told industry analyst Michael Patcher that EA wants Battlefield to be an annual title within 5 to 6 years. Their goal is 3 studios making Battlefield on a 3-year basis, so they can get to Battlefield annually, Patcher said. It's going to take 5 or 6 years before they get 2 in a row, so we're not going to get there for a while, but that's their plan. I mean, I don't have to sugarcoat anything. I don't really need to talk around this. This is the dumbest crap I have ever read in my whole entire life. Absolutely. Basically, their whole goal is to go ahead and line it up exactly how Call of Duty is right now, where the development teams get about 2 to 3 years to go ahead and put together a game, but the games are still forced out yearly. So although it's a 2 to 3 year development cycle, there's so many development teams working behind the scenes that they're able to, crank the games out as quickly as possible. And I'll tell you right now, that is when the passion is lost, ladies and gentlemen. This is absolute devastating news, and I'm not pushing it past EA to go ahead and do such. I guess at this point, I just got to go ahead and enjoy Battlefield 6 for what it is, because as the future, unfolds, we're going to start seeing copy and pasted titles over and over and over again. Yearly cycles are the death of FPS games. The absolute death. I stated it 1,000 times over when it comes down to Call of Duty, and I think a lot of you guys understand the statement. But how can you consistently make a game unique and interesting when you're literally forcing a game out every single year? Battlefield builds so much hype, in my personal opinion, because we have to sit down and wait. Okay, a lot of the people who play Battlefield, in my personal opinion, are a lot more of the mature audience. Not trying to be rude or anything, but I gotta be real, they kind of are. Where a lot more younger dudes will probably go ahead and hit up the faster, twitchy style of games, although Battlefield 6 is pretty dang fast and twitchy. But you understand what I'm trying to say here, comparing the communities and who plays what games. Battlefield, they're a patient crowd, and they like that build-up. They let a game drop. It takes about a couple to a few years of it, being alive, and then obviously you move on to the next title, and, rinse and repeat. And that allows you to have that downtime where you can get excited for a new game, and also it allows them to actually make meaningful innovation and see how people react to things in their current game. You see, with Call of Duty on their yearly cycle, they can't do such a thing. When something goes wrong and people don't like something, it takes 3 to 4 years to actually see the results back into the Call of Duty game. You're not going to see it with the next implementation because, it's too late. They're already making the game. But with Battlefield, after a year or two of the game being out, they could still make drastic tweaks to the new game that they're working on based off of, current feedback within the current game. It's the charm of the overall franchise. And the second this franchise goes on a yearly cycle, that charm is going to go away. It might be fine for the first couple of introductions. You know what I'm saying? It might be okay to do 2, 3. Maybe they can maybe get away with 4 times. But I promise you, after the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th year of them, pushing out these Battlefield games like that, they are going to become stale. And we have already been proven many times before that Battlefield isn't COD. Even with this much hype around the Battlefield 6 open beta, that's not going to last very long, ladies and gentlemen. I can promise you this. I love Battlefield, and I want to see Battlefield succeed. But Battlefield will always boil down to a more, again, I always call it a niche audience, but it's not a niche audience, but it's a more specific audience is what I should call it. And that goes for every Battlefield game out there. And Battlefield also has a lot more of a pickier audience. Players who aren't afraid to say, I'm not playing this if they don't like it. COD can get away with this, and they understand. It looks very appealing to every business out there. It's exactly why EA is chasing this down. Who wouldn't want to be able to release a game yearly and have it make you millions, if not billions of dollars? But Call of Duty fans buy it all and complain about it, and buy it again and complain about it, and buy it again and, complain. That's just Call of Duty. They can thrive off of it. Battlefield, you produce a bad game, guess what? Nobody is going to play it. You're not going to make any money in microtransactions with a couple to a few hundred people who are sitting around playing the title. I don't know what they're thinking. They will have to have such a banging lineup of games in order for the Battlefield community to fall for such crap. And if they even slip up in the slightest, this is going to completely backfire on them. And again, they're not going to make any money out of this. And ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest here. When it comes down to the Battlefield franchise, they don't launch in the best of states. Again, I hope Battlefield 6 can go ahead and thrive and actually, put itself together and it could play just as good as the beta. But would it shock me if it doesn't? No, not at all. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that these games are notorious for busting, and it takes ages to go ahead and resolve the issue, sometimes over a year to get things functioning and perfect. So you're telling me they're trying to pump out a game every single year with a franchise that is hard to optimize and struggles to release games in a functioning state for, rushing out titles extra early. And you're telling me that they do all of this 24/7 and now they want to drop a game every year? You see, COD can kind of get away with it because the game is so freaking simple. Absolutely simple, small. It blows my mind that it actually is like, 100 plus gigs every year around. It makes no sense. But for a Battlefield game, it's way more complex. You're not going to be able to shove them out the door every year around and have them working. It's going to be the same thing where it's just like COD, where it takes a year to get everything resolved, situated, and then a new one drops, and, then it's finally playable. But the whole 5, 6, 7, 8 months after launch is just you being a future beta tester. Again, that happens with a lot of current Battlefield games. But at least we have at least 2 years after that point to just simply enjoy it, right? We might have to go through the trenches for months on end throughout the first year, but at least after that's done, it's smooth sailing. Sometimes, EA is a very interesting company. But I don't know, guys. At the end of the day, I'm not going to keep rambling your guys' ears off. I don't want to do that. I'm just blown away by this decision. I don't know how this is going to work in any way, shape, and form. And the fact that they're really pushing for this in 5 to 6 years, we don't have that much time. That means we'll probably get one more Battlefield game after Battlefield 6, and then we're going to start seeing this yearly cycle introduced. Man, I don't know. I hope that some point in time throughout this process, they will revert. But I highly doubt it, because this is a set of plans that needs time to unfold. They can't just, snap their fingers and say, okay, we're cutting this. No, they are planning this out 5 to 6 years. That means right now, at this very moment, all these separate teams are already trying to plan and organize and get their own type of games cooked up so they're relevant enough. And like I said in the very beginning of the video, that can work out for a little while. And that's also what sucks, because EA is going to see that. It might be successful for the first couple, maybe a few years, and EA is going to be rolling in dough. But long term, especially with a franchise like Battlefield, it's going to be getting way too stale. How many times can these developers, make sure their game is unique enough and interesting enough, and take in community feedback at the same time to make sure the next game can build off of those changes when they have to have a new game out every year? These developers are pre-planning these things years ahead. It's just not going to work. And incorporating community feedback is not going to work either, because there's going to be too many opinions based off of too many random games that have too many different random elements. It's too stressful for Battlefield. I don't think this is the right direction. But of course, let me know what you guys think down below. Everybody has the right to their own opinions. If you guys think it's a great idea for the Battlefield franchise, let me know why you think that. Give me your reasons. I would love to, hear people's opinions on that topic. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post here daily at 8 morning Eastern Time. And sometimes we even go ahead and double upload at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, we post Call of Duty, Battlefield, Splitgate 2, Arc Raiders, and maybe even other FPS or third-person shooters that come down, later down the line that I might be interested in. So subscribe and hit that bell to stay updated on all those videos. And last but not least, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, I'll link that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.